So we wanted to talk about a couple things today, and the one thing that kind of came up was, so I was faced with a pretty big decision in my life, and I was just really asking God what His will was. So it was a lot of waiting and a lot of praying and a lot of no answers, and I just truly wanted to know what God's decision was for me. Like, I was totally submitted. It was just like, okay, God, whatever you pick, that's what I'm going to do. I just need to know what your decision is. And I didn't really get an answer. And so Aubrey and I were actually on a plane together, and I was talking to her about it, and she said something really cool. It was really helpful. She said that, when you're, I don't know, did God show you this, or maybe you read it? Okay.
Yeah.
So like when you're truly submitted to God, He really wants you to make the decision and trust Him in it. And it's kind of cool. He gives you that freedom. But He doesn't really want you to say, okay, Lord, what next? Okay, Lord, what next? Okay, Lord, what next? Like, He wants you to make that decision for yourself and then trust Him, because He can work good out of anything.
Right.
So it's really cool.
And Teresa, I used to pray a lot, God, just show me what it is you want me to do, and I'll do it. Please just tell me, please just give me a very vivid sign. And so while I was praying that, I heard this story about this guy who was at this pivotal point in his life, and he had two paths he could take. Neither of them were really right or wrong. He just didn't know which one to choose, and so he actually traveled to go see Mother Teresa, and he went to Mother Teresa and asked her if she would pray that he would have clarity. And Mother Teresa said, "I will not pray that you have clarity. Clarity is the last thing that you're holding on to and need to let go of." And he was taken back, and he was but Mother Teresa, you seem to have clarity with everything. And she's like, "I've never had clarity. What I have is trust, and I'll pray that you have trust." And that just blew my mind, because what it made me realize was that while we are after clarity, God is after trust. What His vision for us is not to have everything figured out, so we make correct decision after correct decision after accurate decision, but it's just that we trust Him. And even in sometimes it's a blind step that we have to take and just trust. And I was reading the other day about when Jesus healed the blind man, and so this blind man comes to Him, and what does he want? He wants clarity, right? He wants to be able to see. And so Jesus, of all things, what He does is He takes mud and puts mud on his eyes. The man who wants clarity gets mud in his eyes. It's just so bizarre. But He puts mud on his eyes. He also tells him to go to the pool of Siloam and wash his eyes. So you've got a blind man now with mud on his eyes, and now he's got to go find a pool. And Jesus doesn't take him by the hand and lead him to the pool. And I'm like, God, he's blind. How's he gonna find this pool? I'm thinking as I'm reading this, and it was weird what He said, but He said, "It's not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit." And that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me at first, until I realized that being led by the Spirit is just as good as Jesus taking you by the hand and leading you there. And the challenge for that blind man was to not try to wipe the mud off his eyes on his own, try to see clarity on his own, because he wouldn't have gotten it. What he had to do was trust, and he had to follow really that inclination in him where this pool was. And so he saw, and it's this is such a cool picture that trust gives birth to clarity. But the whole goal, the whole dream really of God for you is not that you have a crystal clear picture, but that you have trust.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because that makes me think of the story of Joseph. And that's probably an extreme example, because he had to wait years and years and years and travel, or endure lots of adversity to get to clarity, but the clarity was there. So in the story of Joseph, he was sold as a slave as a boy, and he grew up as a servant. He became imprisoned, even though he wasn't in the wrong. And anyways, he ended up being the second in command under Pharaoh in Egypt, and ended up saving the whole nation from famine. But he had to trust God through that whole thing and all that injustice.
Right.
And then he got clarity, as an older man.
Yeah, and that's tough. Like when you are there and you've got the mud on your eyes, like the first thing that you want is just the mud off your eyes.
Right.
Instead of just trusting God's instructions. And God's instructions are not always super clear because it's man, I was watching Knight's Tale the other day, and in Knight's Tale, the father takes his son to this foreign land and drops him off there, and so he can have a better life. And then he takes this boat to go back home, and the son calls out to his dad. He goes, "Dad, like, how am I ever gonna find my way back home?" And his dad says, "Don't be ridiculous, follow your feet." And I'm like, that is the stupidest answer, like, when I was watching it. But no, I felt like God was like, no, like, that's the answer, follow your feet. And it's like, when you just trust God and you just allow Him to lead you, and you just put one foot right in front of the other, like, He'll take you exactly where you need to be. And like, if you even think about like the world in and of itself, like, just works by faith. Like, you know, me and Chelsea were talking about how like even the stock market works by faith. And you know, the Bible says anything not done in faith is sin. So if you do it in faith and like you take a step in faith, you know, God will honor that. And so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really, like, ultimately that's what God's after.
Yeah.
When you're saved by faith.
Right.
Like, what's the verse about? It's not pleasing anything outside of faith, or faith is
Yeah.
pleasing. What did
I forget the verse. I will put it on the video though, at the bottom.
Yeah, so like faith is what pleases God.
Right,
basically.
right, yeah.
And so it's interesting walking that out in daily life and how that looks,
Yeah.
and how scary it is. But you know, you can't know how great it is until you do it.
Yeah.
So
So trust God, have faith, and
follow your feet.
follow your feet.